Hello, hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are looking at our budget Leonin still, and this is on removal and recursion. This is a weird combination, but I thought I really wanted to cover both of these, and there weren't kind of enough really good options to do a video on each, so I stuck these together. Even though they're kind of the opposite of each other, but whatever. Opposites, I should say. Anyway, what are we covering? I'm covering what I'm calling the exemplars. So creature types that have a very high affinity for one color. So again, we've done black with rats, red goblins, blue merfolk, and white leonin. Saving the green elves for last because I feel like everyone knows them. So their main color again is white. Leonin are weird because they don't have their own creature type. I think they started printing them and then didn't realize how many they were going to make, so they never bothered to give them a creature type, and then they all of a sudden had like, a few hundred of them, and they go, maybe too late. So kind of a sunken cost fallacy on that one, I think. But anyway, so this list is actually about cats with a focus on Leonin, I guess. The Leonin are white cats are kind of all over the place. And by budget, I mean $2 or less, and I'm using the TCG market value, not a sponsor, not at all. Honorable mentions, so these are all 8 cents or less, which is quite good. Watchers of the Dead, for only 2 mana, it's a 2/2. Exile Watchers of the Dead. Each opponent chooses 2 cards in his or her library and exiles the rest. This is the kind of card that you really should have in every deck that can deal with graveyards. This is something I see a lot. Make sure you have some kind of graveyard card where you can mess with people's graveyards. Otherwise, those recursion decks are just going to outvalue you. Leonin Squire for 1 and a white is a 2/2, and when it comes into play, target artifact card with converted target artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less from your graveyard to your hand. This can be very, very useful if you have some kind of a 0 cost artifact, especially like Tormod's Crypt maybe, where you use it to exile everyone's graveyard. It goes to your graveyard. You can just put it straight back to your hand. And actually, Tormod's Crypt, does that exile or just sacrifice? I can't remember. Anyway, there's also a lot of mana rock type cards that will give you mana on card draw by sacrificing the artifact, and then you can get that back to your hand and then play it again, and then Candy Trail, for instance. So yeah. Well, Candy Trail doesn't sacrifice, but it has an ETB. Anyway, Leonin Iconoclast, 3 and a white for a 3/2. And whenever you cast a spell that targets Leonin Iconoclast, destroy target enchantment creature an opponent controls. So this is going to be just destroying enchantment creatures. Enchantment creature, it's somewhat niche, definitely, but against the right deck, it's going to be just horrifying. Okay, first up we have Lurrus of the Dream Den. Most popular card on the list, but a very important to include. So before anyone leaves angry messages, please don't. First of all, my number 5 spot is where I put the most well-known card. I do that on purpose. I know most people know about this card. You don't have to get upset and leave angry messages, okay? Anyway, so 1, white or black, so or very flexible Orzhov there. And it's a 3/2 lifelink, and it has Companion. Each permanent card in your starting deck has converted mana cost 2 or less. Very limiting there, but anyway. During each of your turns, you may cast 1 permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. Again, you don't have to use Companion, right? Companion basically just means you can have it as an extra card in your deck from outside, almost like a commander, right? But once you cast it, it doesn't go back to its little companion zone. That just basically ceases to exist once you cast it once. Very good card. I probably wouldn't use the Companion thing. I just put it in the rest of the deck. You can put it in the deck as normal, you don't have to use Companion, is the point I'm trying to make. Somewhat not well, but anyway, 81 cents. Enlightened Aesthetic. This is our background art. So for 1 and a white, it's a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target enchantment. There's a lot of cards that do something similar to this, and this is like the cat version. So if you've got any kind of cat Kindred deck, you probably have white in the cost or in the identity, and this is definitely an include. Only really good with some ways to blink or recast it. Some way to get multiple ETBs. So that's what I would be looking for with this. Some way, even if you can recur it to your hand and then cast it again. Having a 2 mana removal spell is not bad, and you get a creature, so it can basically be reused, or you just blink it, right? You just pick it up, put it back down over and over and over, and just blow up a whole bunch of stuff. So that's really good. I wonder if that's one of the words I shouldn't use on YouTube, but anyway. Or phrases, I guess. Anyway, 12 cents. Leonin Relic Warder is 2 white for a 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield, you may exile target artifact or enchantment, and when it leaves the battlefield, put it back. Super useful in multiple ways. If you've got some kind of artifact that you actually want the ETB from, you can use this to kind of like on your own thing to get that ETB doubled, or you can use it against someone else's stuff, like to just lock it down for a bit. A lot of people don't like effects like this. I think even it's not removing it, it's not exiling it, it's not sending it to the graveyard. It's basically just locking it down for a little bit, which a lot of times is all you need, right? I think it is very flexible and very useful. Anyway, 25 cents. Trove Warden. Okay, so 2 white for a 3/4 with vigilance. Not bad. Whenever a land enters landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, exile target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. That 3 or less thing with cats seems like a thing. And when it dies, put each permanent card exiled with it onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So you're going to start just like, especially if you've got Selesnya, right? If you've got white-green, you can get so many of those landfall triggers, and then yeah, when someone casts a board wipe, you end up just having like maybe an even more set up board than you started with. This is pretty huge. I actually said with one deck this could be a potential win con. Anyway, only 29. Our number 1 is Highcliffe Felidar. Okay, 5 white for a 5/5 vigilance. Super expensive, right? 7 is higher than I like to put in decks most of the time, but let's see what it does. So when it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, choose a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls. Destroy those creatures. Only affects opponents and only their toughest creature, greatest power creature. The creature with the greatest power among their permanents. And yeah, it also, what's really interesting about this is that it gets around Shroud, and it gets around even if the player has hexproof, it does not target the creature or the player, right? There's no target for this ability really, so there's no way to use like hexproof or Shroud to like get around it. If you play this, you take things out. They could be indestructible. That's the only thing that might save them. Anyway, just having that extra flexibility is, I think, worth it. Anyway, 163. The List. Okay, Luris of the Dream Den, 81 cents. Enlightened Aesthetic, 12 cents. Leonin Relic Warder, 25 cents. Trove Warden is 29 cents. And Highcliffe Felidar is 163. Alright, take it easy.